Hey guys, welcome to Still Grizzly's channel. Today we're going to do a tips and tricks video on Moonlighter. We're going to look at some of the options to do for when you're starting out in the very beginning. As a beginner, you kind of run into some issues that you don't know what to do next. So I'm going to go ahead and make this video for you guys. As you can see, I have already completed the game, and I guess you could say that I'm a little knowledgeable on the game now that I've completed it. But I'm going to go ahead and start out with tip number 1. And that tip is always start out with your second item. Make sure you get the bow. So in other words, you're going to find enemies in the game when you're playing that are going to be a little bit too far away. Or if you get too close, they do a really devastating attack. So what you're going to want to do is use a weapon that can attack them far away. And I actually have 2 weapons. Right now I have the spear, which I like to use a lot, and then you have the bow. And the bow, if you can see here, starts out pretty simple recipe from the Golem Dungeon. You have 3 items: Founder's Rocks, I think there's steel rods, and then the sticks. And then you can do various options here. You can do a hunter bow, which is just straight damage, or one that's damage plus looks like stun damage. This is damage and poison, damage and fire, and then damage and electricity. And all the weapons do have these options where you have one that's just basically damage, and then one that has extra elemental damage as well. And you're gonna want the bow to start out, so that way you can survive, I guess, which leads into tip 6, but I'm gonna wait on that one. We're gonna go ahead and move into tip 2, and that is your wish list. If you see down at the bottom, K, add to wish list. So you started out, you don't know what to do, you're trying to figure out what to do. Go ahead and press K on this, and you see a star just came on it. So now when you back out and you go to the dungeon, it's gonna start kind of like these jellies that I have set up here. And essentially you're going to be able to know when you're in the dungeon. Say you're like, I need a bow, but I don't know what I need for the bow. So doing the wish list actually helps you know, okay, I need to keep this item. I don't need this item, but I can keep this item right here. You can go ahead and delete them later on. So it's actually a really good way of helping out. I didn't know about the wish list until later on, so that's something that I wish I would have known, so that's why I'm giving it to you as tip number 2. And tip number 3, go ahead and back out of here. You have the little store, or not the store, the upgrades for the store. You start out here with town or shop. Town, you can do the Vulcan's Forge and the wooden hat. I recommend both of these because this upgrades your armor and your weapons, and this one upgrades potions and enchantments, which we will address here in a minute. And the Vulcan, or the Lee retailer, is good if you don't feel like going back into the dungeon and grinding some. The Hawker is good if you want to upgrade your shop. And the Banker, I actually don't know what he does, so we'll go ahead and move on. But you have your shops here. You have number 1, 2, and 3. I guess the next tip or trick, number 3, is upgrade your beds. Each time you upgrade your bed, you get additional health bonus. So when you go into the dungeon, you don't even have to sleep, and you get extra health. So if you look at my health at the top, I have 1,000 health. That's due to armor and building up, certain materials. But then you see 250. That is due to the beds. So my bed is maxed out, so I have the highest extra health you can get, which is the 250. And then the shields, of course, those are upgrading your armor later on. But that's more advanced, so we won't deal with that right now in the beginner portion. But that essentially, that's what you want to start on. If you're wondering, hey, what do I work on first? Well, I would say the Vulcan's Forge, wooden hat are the first 2. I mean, they're the first 2 that you can work on. I would do wooden hat first, just because it gives you potions, which is going to lead into step 4. And then I would go ahead and upgrade your bed. And also, this is kind of like a side step, but you can get a small chest and an iron cash register, and these are really cool because this one adds 10% tip. So you say I sell something for $100, it's going to add $10 more, or 10 gold more on top of that, so it gives you just a little bit extra. And you see down here you get all the way to 40% extra. But let's talk about the wooden hat. Wooden hat, I say step 4 is kind of a combination of two things. One, go ahead and get the wooden hat because she gives you potions. And as you can see here, I have these potions on my wish list so that I don't lose them or get rid of them accidentally. You start out with the smaller potions, which only gives you about 40 health. Yep, 40 health, and then you have 75, 200, and 500 health. And you want her first because she can give you health just in case you run into a sticky situation. And a secondary helpful hint would be go ahead and keep 5 extra health potions with you. When you have this one filled up, you can only have 5 at a time. So let's say you get in a tough spot, but you want to make it to the boss, or you want to at least make it to the 3rd level so you can get to the boss, and you're almost out of potions. Well, if you have 5 more sitting over here, then you'll be able to just add them in, and you'll be easy squeezy, lemon, you know. You'll be just fine because then you'll have extra potions, so you won't need to worry about it. And when you get to a certain point in the dungeon, you'll be able to come back, but we'll address that later once we're in the dungeon. So the next step, tip 5, is enchant your weapons. So potions was 4 and 5 is enchant. I don't have any right now, or actually I do. You see my sword and shield here. This is one of the lower or older, earlier level weapons. You can take it from 110 damage to 135 by enchanting it, and all you need are these little, they're little crystals. I can't remember the exact name. I think empowered crystals is what they're called. But here you see the soldier's short sword, which is one of the earlier swords that you start out with, and you can actually upgrade them, make them just a little bit stronger. And when you do that, it helps out. It helped me actually to beat a boss on one of the levels because I just couldn't get him, you know? You get him down to a certain amount and he just wouldn't die. Or he kept getting me. But this kind of leads into, I'm going to say step 5 is kind of 2 parts here. Enchanting your weapons, but I want to let you know about the types of weapons you have here. There's 3 different armors. There's the one here with plus health and then plus speed, and this one's just plainly plus health, and then this one's plus it's higher health and lower speed, and it does the same for all 3. So you're gonna have your shoes, your regular armor, and then your headband. Personally, I started out with the plus 8 because I thought that the plus 8 speed would help out a ton, but in the end, you see I have 1,000 health when I back out of this. I ended up going with the middle range because it didn't lose any speed and it didn't give me any speed, but it gave me, you see here, it actually only gives you 10 plus 10 on the health. But when you go down here, so I'm going to go over here, see it's 270 plus 8 speed, so the speed doesn't increase and the health increases a little bit. But if I scroll down here, that's 360, that's almost, what is that, 100, that's almost, yeah, that's almost 100 more health points on the just medium range. So at the end here, it's okay, you're kind of okay when you're in the desert dungeon, but when you're in the tech dungeon, it's definitely worth it to upgrade to the middle tier weapon, or excuse me, armor. You can see the same here. So, I mean, the last one does give you a greater health benefit, but I feel like that -8 speed, because you want to move pretty fast in the last fights, you don't want to really deal with that. And then while I'm addressing this, you have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5 different weapons. You have swords and shields. Swords and shields. Excuse me. This one is essentially, it's a close range weapon that you can hack at people, and you can actually put up a block to defend yourself, which actually stuns or stops people depending on how fast you put that up. Then you have a big sword, which actually has a negative speed bonus. So again, if you're just wanting to be heavy and tanky, then I would go with the heavy armor, negative speed, and then the big swords here, because they do a lot of damage here in the end. But they also, you know, cut into your speed. My personal favorite is the spear. And I love this little guy. He gives you quite a bit of range. So it's almost like having a sword, but with an extra hand range. So you have that distance with the spear. The gloves, I haven't actually gotten to use them very much, but they are pretty good. You're just going to be a lot closer than any of the other weapons that you have here. And then of course the bow give you that range. And depending if you want extra damage or you want extra damage, or the damage with elemental damage. So you have those options for your weapons. Let's go ahead and go into the Golem Dungeon, where you're first going to be at. I know that step 5 was kind of a little bit longer there, with a lot of information, essentially. Alright, actually before I get to step 6, I didn't even think about this. These are called, or I call them pools of healing. Essentially, if you're hurting, you don't have any health potions left, run back here, jump in, and it actually heals you up. So, and another little side note, I guess I can tell you this. I don't know if it's going to be a spoiler, so let me say spoilers. If you find one of these, that means you're very close to the next floor of the dungeon. Well, this is good. This perfectly shows my example for step 6. Watch the patterns of the enemies. You can work a way to get an angle without getting hit. So we have 2 little guys that are following me right here. And then you see the guy in the middle, he's only shooting a certain way. You can also see he only shoots 3 times. So you can be like, well, what do I do to fight this guy? Well, you can actually, if you see, you can squeeze up next to him, he's not going to shoot you. So there's going to be monsters like this in the game that you're just like, well, what do I do to fight this guy? He keeps beating me, crushing me. Yeah, there's nothing I can do to get him. You just have to, I guess, evaluate and look out for the examples of, you know, trying to find them. But I don't know if you just saw me break that vase, and I actually picked up an item. It was this item here. That leads into step 7. You know, always check skeletons, vases, or bushes. They change in each level, so they could be a vase. They're all vases in the Golem Dungeon. I think they're bushes in the Forest Dungeon, the desert. I think they're all just rocks, and then the same in the Tech Dungeon. But make sure to hit them, because you're gonna get loot out of them sometimes. See, there's a skeleton there. If I hit him, now you have the health. And see how I'm like, they're right there, they're shooting, but I'm moving out of the way. So for example, this guy right here, he's gonna hit his head, hit down, and then he's gonna slowly move up while I attack him. It gives you that extra time where you're just like, okay, I can respond, react. So that's, so far that's the 2 steps. We have watch for the patterns and break all the vases or any items that you see when you're in the dungeon, because you can always get extra loot. Now we're moving on to step 8, which is backpack, essentially organization. So you have a couple items, or there's a couple, I guess this step leads into a couple little steps, but really the primary thing is always make sure you look at your items in the chest. This one says artifact must be placed to the left or right of the bag. So when I add it, It's only going to move right here. I can't put it there. It won't let me. Can't put it here. It won't let me. But I can put it there. So the same with this one. It's only top or bottom. So essentially step 8 is learn the curses that you see. Because some curses you'll find. If I can find one, let's go ahead and look. And you see here in this room how I couldn't get through because all these guys were right there. So there are some areas in this game where you're going to be stuck until you can get through that point. So you're going to be fighting some pretty hard enemies. And when you get later, I think when you make it to the second floor, you get this item down here. I'm going to light it up for you. It is the pendant that essentially can let you go home. So if you get to a point where you're stuck, just use that little guy and he will save you. But see, there's an example of why I like the spear, because I could reach across and stab that guy without any issues. But what I'm trying to do right now is find you guys a chest. Sorry for the quietness there. We're gonna go ahead and move over here. Okay, good. There's a chest. Alright. So we have another chest. And as you can see here, just a little tidbit, you're gonna see this often when you're in the dungeons. You'll see another entryway to the next dungeon that you haven't been to yet. So it's a good way to experience or see you know, what's going on, how to fight something, and whatnot. Alright, good. This is what I was trying to look for. So we have, it was this one that I'm looking for, but I'll address it here in a second. So you have destroy one artifact in a direction shown upon returning to town. I don't want that to happen. So, especially with, look, I need these roots, or I need these vines for a specific item. I don't want to lose them, and if I'm packed full of stuff, I'm not going to be able to. And this also goes back to backpack management. You see these two items, they didn't sit on top of each other correctly, so just always make sure you're checking your backpack to see if they can be moved or combined correctly. So this item, let me set it here so it doesn't do it, but it destroys one artifact curse in the direction shown when placed. So I can actually place it in, I don't have to wait till we go back to town, and you can actually take that curse off that specific item. So really, it's pretty beneficial to make sure you know what you're doing when you're adding items. And there's some later on that will actually send them back home. So if you have an item, say for these 10 rich jelly, I really need them for my health potions, so I need to send them home. And then you find a chest where it has items like that, you can definitely take advantage of that. And let's go ahead and go to the little forest area here. So you got these two guys, and this is a good example of patterns. They can only hit, so you can see you can only hit specific ways. And then you can ding them and pretty much kill them. And this guy is like that one guy that we had that shot 3 shots. And you can essentially sneak around him and get him. So that's essentially my beginner tips of how to like work your way through the dungeon. So let's go ahead and head back. So you've worked your way through the dungeon, you don't know what to do next. And you're just trying to figure out, well, what do I do next? Well, that leads into step 9 here. I'm gonna go ahead and open the store, and I'll give you a couple tips in the store. We see here, I'm actually a little bit more advanced on this side, so I have what we call an assistant, which if you get there, definitely get the assistant. So she helps out, she can sell your items with a 30% profit, or she takes 30% of your income that you make off that day. So you can still go into the dungeon, make a bunch of, get a bunch of loot and whatnot, come back, and she will have sold everything that you have set up for her. But right now is step number 9. So you're trying to learn how to sell everything, and you don't know what to do. The best way to do it, I'm gonna go ahead and open the store while we do this. So the best way to do it is, you see that these items are all here, located, and they give you options to upgrade, lower. Like, I want to knock this down a little bit, or knock it up a bit, because next to it you see a little up arrow. That means it's in demand right now. Whereas this item up here is just kind of neutral, so it's just going to stay the same. No one really wants it, no one really doesn't want it. Well, starting out, you're like, well, I don't know how much a route's going to be. You can press the book over here, and you can look down on the bottom. It says 2 gold. You see where the range is above the 6x6 page, and you can go up to the next page until you reach, see here, 16 water lamp. You see 250 that's the range where that goes right there. So you have that gold amount is how much is it worth. So you can see over in selling and reactions, I've sold this water lamp for 250 gold, and they're happy. It's a little smiley face. They're super happy. Yay! Sold the right stuff for me. I'm so happy. So I can go down, and you can see it's starting to like lower in pricing if you continue to watch the happy face. So a really good way of figuring out how to sell an item is put it one at a time instead of putting, say, 5 or 10 at a time. And you can up it a little each time. So you can go over here, say, we're in the tech dungeon, we don't need to be there. Go to Golem. Say the rune tool, you're gonna start getting those a lot. Well, the rune tool is below 3,000. And if you scroll down a little bit more, it's above 250. So you're gonna be like, well, what do I need to do? I mean, obviously, I have it here. I've tried it at 500 gold, and that's a steal. That's why they have the gold icons in their eye. Like, oh my god, I can't believe he sold it for this cheap. I'm gonna steal it, Essentially, you have that. And that kind of leads into a little item. It's not a tip or anything. I guess it is a tip. But watch for people coming into the store. They're going to pop in, and they will have little icons above their head as they come in. And it will say, I'm a businessman. Oh, sell me something expensive. And they're really good to have. Then you have a guy like the guy that just came in, who's got a little helmet and a sword and whatnot, and he wants you to sell him a armor or weapons for the day. I'll go ahead and sell. And then later on, this is kind of not... Oh, we have someone who is super happy, and I sold them something super cheap. Alright, that's what I was waiting on. That guy that came in with a little mask on, he is what we call a thief, so you have to watch out for him. And later on, you're also going to get people that come up to you. Once you get to the 2nd level, you're going to have people that come up to do quests. And they're going to ask you to go into the dungeon and get specific items. For example, this lady wants me to go get 5 magnetic tools and then sell them to her in 3 days. And you can say, yes, I want to do that, and you'll get 80,000 gold whenever that happens, or no. I'm going to say no right now, for the sake of, showing you guys everything. But we have this thief, he's just standing there, he's going to try to get something. What is he going to try to get? And you can see, this kind of leads into step 10, or actually this is step 10, where it makes them happy, what's going on, how to figure out what's low, what's high. And you can see there, he tried to steal my little squirt gun there, which is one of the later level items. But hopefully that helps you out there. If you're trying to figure out, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't figure out, what to do next. I'm stuck. Just follow those 10 steps. Well, it's more like, I don't know. Or like almost 15 there, with a little bit, let's say it's just 10 base steps, uh, and then just a little bit, a couple steps underneath it. I'll just recap here for you. Step number 1, make sure you have a bow and arrow as fast as you can. 2, make sure you set up with wish list for items that you wish you could have. 3, upgrade your bed, so that make sure that's the first item you do upgrade, so you can get a little bit of health boost when you go into the dungeons. 4, upgrade your health. You know, add extra health in your backpack to carry with you. Yeah, it takes up a little bit of space, but it comes in handy later on. 5, enchant your weapons, so that way they can do just a little bit extra damage. 6, make sure you watch the patterns of your enemies and work away so that you can get a hit without you getting hit. 7, make sure you break everything in the dungeon, essentially. Skeletons, vases, bushes, there's going to be something in there that you can get that will help you out. I found weapons, all sorts of things that I didn't have, and I was trying to actually build something, and I got a big sword by breaking a skeleton. 8, you know, make sure you know how to do the backpack management and use the curses in your favor. Then 9, learn how to sell without cheating. Best way to do it is to, like I said, look at the book, make sure you check the gold levels, and then you can kind of estimate. You can go a little bit lower, a little bit higher, and this kind of leads into 10, which is watch the reactions of your customers. You're gonna see, oh, I'm unhappy, I'm so angry with this, you know, amount of price, so knock it down 100 gold, and then you'll see, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to pay to get this. And you know, each time you do that, you'll just be getting better and better and getting accomplishments and making, you know, everyone happy, and ended up, you know, selling all the good stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and end the tips and tricks right there. That's going to be the end of that for you. And thank you, everyone. Since I am doing this, I'm going to post this on YouTube. I want to, you know, make sure you like, subscribe, and if you guys do want to follow me on Twitch, I'll provide the link down below. And thank you, everyone.